Poneman.
Okay, excellent.
And my daughter is my mirror, and I just love her to the ends of the earth because I see myself in her, and she is my greatest teacher.
Mm-hmm. And what are some of the lessons your daughter has taught you lately?
Well, I'll tell you, one of the lessons that she continually teaches me is that sometimes with our children, we could get very upset and very angry because I have to look and I have to think, am I just worried about how that reflects on me? Mm-hmm. Am I just worried what people think about me? And that's a very, very important place for me to go. And sometimes I'll get very impatient with both of my children, and it's easy to get impatient and yell at your children. I'm not going to start yelling at you, right? And my daughter, no matter how impatient I get, and I start being very angry, and I sometimes I think my head is going to spin, like Linda Blair. And my daughter's always the one who reminds me that, Mom, everything is perfect. And she always reminds me that we could always call on our angels and our guides and our helpers when we feel that we are just like possessed by some anger or some impatience. Always call on our helpers, and they'll help you move out of that.
Well, what I'm understanding from hearing you tell your story is that yes to success is acknowledging some shortcomings.
Absolutely.
And being open to learning, and learning from everyone, including your own children or your own family members.
One of the things I teach in Yes to Success, and you've heard this expression before, and that is to see not only the God in each person, but to see the teacher in each person. I love the expression, if you can't see God in the person sitting next to you, you need look no further. Mm-hmm. And if you can't see the teacher and the person who's taking your order at the Taco Bell, then you don't have to look for any other teacher, because you're not going to find that teacher.
Mm-hmm. And how does seeing the God in others help us become better human beings, or help us to say yes to success? I mean, I would think part of yes to success is having successful social relationships.
Well, I'll give you a great example.
Okay.
When I started my seminar in the early 80s, one of my students who came was a little student from UCLA. If I didn't know not only to see the God and the teacher in each person, but to treat every human being as the most important person in the world, because to them they are. And of course, this little student came, and she wanted to be my secretary. And of course, I treated her with utmost respect as God, mm-hmm. and she became my secretary. And then she became the vice president of my company, although she was still the only employee. And years later, she is now the #1 best-selling woman nonfiction author of all time. And the reason why I share that with you, and that's Marcy Shimoff. And the reason I share that with you is my book, Chicken Soup for the American Idol Soul. She sold 15 million Chicken Soup books. And when the Chicken Soup franchise asked her to write Chicken Soup for the American Idol Soul, she was under contract for a different book. But she said, but my friend Debra knows American Idol backwards and forwards and is a great writer. And I got that gig.
I'm going to hold this up for our audience to get a look at the book.
And you see the point, because I didn't think, oh, now 20 years from now, she's going to be the best-selling author and she's going to be able to get me a writing gig. No, I treated her as the most important person in the world.
You mentored her.
And I mentored her, and in no drop of love and respect is ever wasted, whether it's the person at the Taco Bell or somebody who is interviewing you or the person behind the camera. No drop of love and respect is ever wasted.
Tony Robbins, he had mentors. He came from neurolinguistics programming, and he was working in seminars for the people who started NLP. So it's interesting because I see a correlation, although I don't think Tony Robbins has the good relationship with his mentors as you do with your protege, which is a credit to you. All right, well, let's talk a little bit more about this. There's a section here, aligning with your higher self. Mm-hmm. What does that mean?
Well, as I said earlier, when we talk about Neale Donald Walsch and the messages from God, We get downloads all the time. And one of the ways that I tell people to see what your higher self wants to tell you, sometimes we're so busy during our day that we start spinning. I got to get this done. I got to answer these emails. I got to do this. And we're like spinning. And no knowledge can come to an agitated mind.
Yeah.
So what I tell people is when you find yourself spinning, you have to stop, take a few very deep belly breaths, and then take an appreciation break and stop and look around and appreciate everything that your eye falls upon.
Aren't you really just trying to still and empty the mind? You know, it's like a cup that's too full has no room for more water, and a mind that's too full has no room for new ideas or
That's
new
beautiful. Can I borrow that?
Well, there's a famous Zen parable. I'll tell you. It's about the Zen master. You'll get a kick out of it.
But what happens by appreciating where you are right now, you come back to present time, and then what happens is, and if you're really spinning, I say just stop, pick yourself up from that desk and go take a walk, or go sit with the sun on your face, or go watch a sunset, or go pet the dog. And that's when the knowledge is going to come to you, not when you're spinning. And when people say they have writer's block, well, get up and unblock it by just looking at something beautiful in nature. And then, everybody says that their most profound ideas came when they were in the bathtub, or when they were just sitting and holding their children.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree. Actually, meditation has been shown to help overcome a mental block. So, and to me, like holding a baby. Hi, Jen. Jen is pregnant. Holding a baby.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Holding a baby or just, walking through the woods is, a form of meditation.
And I'll tell you one other quick story, Marcy. I'm up again referring to Marcy. When she was so busy doing so many things, and she decided that she not only had to go take an hour, she decided she had to take a week. And she actually went to a silence course for a week. And that was when the Chicken Soup books were popular, just Chicken Soup for the Soul. And that's where she had the idea. Chicken soup for the woman's soul, chicken soup for the mother's soul, chicken soup for the nurse's soul. And that whole series was born because Marcy decided to go be in silence. If she had kept working, that series of books probably would never have been born.
Yeah. You remind me of, did you ever go to Unity Church of Chicago?
Yes.
Mike Matoim and Sarah?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. And everybody, most people say I remind them of their best friend in high school.
Yeah, yeah, because they've inspired a lot of people, and
yes, wonderful people.
Yes, we could talk about that after the show. We might have some connections there. Now, one thing I noticed that you haven't defined success, by how much money, how much material objects. I can see you shaking your head no and agreeing with me. So how do you define success?
Well, and I love material objects. There's nothing wrong with material objects, but if you think you're going to find happiness or fulfillment from a material object, then that would not be a good idea, because that would be like, milking a cow and trying to get orange juice. Ain't going to happen. Success from possessions. However, what I say that success is, great definition, it's the progressive realization of a worthy idea or goal. I borrowed that from the old masters like Napoleon Hill and Earl Nightingale. And I believe that it has two parts to that definition. One is success is a journey. It's a progressive thing. It's not just when I get the Nobel Prize or when my novel gets to #1 on the New York Times bestselling list, because then you'll have success for a split second. Mm-hmm. But you are successful as soon as you pick something great to do and do it. Just pick something that makes your heart sing. And then you are successful, because the journey is the fun part. Somebody asked Ray Kroc, when did you feel the most excitement? When you had your first McDonald's or your 3,000th McDonald's? And he said, I felt the greatest success when I was still sleeping on park benches, because that's when I had the vision of what I was going to do. So as soon as you have that idea, again, you are given that idea because you are supposed to manifest it.
Well, people often encounter obstacles and pitfalls and setbacks, which is part of the journey. Tell our audience how that fits into your definition of success.
Well, I think that pitfalls and setbacks are absolute blessings because those are our lessons that we were put on earth to learn. So if you have something that seems like a huge wall, it's not, oh, woe is me, this is so terrible. And you know, the great Byron Katie, how do we know that you were supposed to have that setback? Because you did. And if you weren't supposed to, you wouldn't have. But what I say is that when you feel that contraction because something didn't happen the way it was supposed to, feel it, breathe into it, and ask it what it's there to teach you. And if you do that, there will always be knowledge that will come to you, and you take that knowledge and move on.
It's what the Dalai Lama says, when you lose, don't lose the lesson.
You are good.
Well,
that is
you.
beautiful.
Thank you. Well, it's the Dalai Lama who, by the way, he to talk about happiness. He wrote a book, The Art of Happiness, and that's part of the effortless path to happiness.
Yes.
And I always point out to people, it's the art of happiness. And art takes years to master.
And that's so beautiful because that's what I teach in my Yes to Success seminars. There are simple techniques that you can use to create more happiness in your life. Unfortunately, we don't learn that in our school curriculums. You know, we learn math and science, but we don't learn the effortless things that you could do to create more happiness in your life. Can I share one of them?
Sure. We only got 2 minutes, and I want you to make the most of the 2 minutes, so feel free, whatever you want to do with the time remaining.
One of the greatest ways that you can create happiness for yourself is to wish other people success and happiness. And the harder it is to wish that person success and happiness and fulfillment of their heart's desires, and if you can do it, the greater the energetic opening will be for success and happiness
if we
to
could
come
get our
to you.
Democrats and Republicans in Congress to think that way.
Do you know what I tell people to do? I tell people if they can wish the person that bothers them on the other side of the aisle the absolute most, and just visualize that person and surround them with love and surround them with light and wish them the fulfillment of their heart's desire, then that could be the greatest gift that you can give to yourself. And you know what? You might also see that everybody is doing the best they can.
You know, I saw a TV show about the woman whose daughter was murdered in San Diego, and she met with the murderer, and she forgave them and said, "How could you forgive that monster?" He said, "I would have been in prison with that murder had I done the same thing." Debra, it's been a pleasure, and we only touched on like 1/1000th of your information. I encourage people to take the Yes for Success seminar. For more information about Debra Poneman, Infinity Foundation, the Inner Quest talk show, stay tuned to the credits at the end. Until next time, wish you good health, good spirits, and good fortune and good success. Thank you, Debra.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
For more information about this show, our guests, Infinity Foundation, or any of our other programs, please visit our website, infinityfoundation.org, or call us at 847-831-8828.